to show the same kind of sets. Usually used in cases like inequalities. So if I have something like x is less than 3, the set notation for x is less than 3 is going to be this inequality with 4 extra keystrokes. The set of x, where you list the variable, such that, and then you just fill this in with the inequality, x is less than 3. On a number line, x is less than 3 means any number smaller than 3. Some books use an open circle like this to indicate that it's a less than instead of a less than or equal to. This book uses a parenthesis in the case of a less than as opposed to a less than or equal to. And you just color in this part of the line. So this on a line shows all the numbers less than 3. A line always has negative infinity at one end and positive infinity at the other. In interval notation always has either parentheses or brackets. You list the smaller endpoint, comma, the large endpoint, and then again you put either a parenthesis or a bracket. This one is going to be a parenthesis because it goes all the way to the left forever. The small endpoint is negative infinity, and the one on the right is 3 with a parenthesis. We use a bracket when the endpoint itself is included, which would be in a case of where it says x is less than or equal to 3. The set of x values such that x is less than or equal to 3 includes the 3. Here, x can be 3. In this one, x cannot be 3. 3 is not less than 3, but 3 is less than or equal to 3. This is an either or situation. If we graph it on a number line, the only difference is that where the 3 is, in order to show that the line is over here, we would put a bracket here. Like so. We would put a bracket instead of a parenthesis for no reason other than the fact that the equal to is there. And in the interval notation, it would be exactly the same, except we would have a bracket instead of a parenthesis. If we had, for instance, the set of x's such that x is greater than 3, that would be the set of values that are above 3. And because the line is not there, we would use a parenthesis. Here, because this is going from 3 to positive infinity, it would be parenthesis 3 to positive infinity we want to always use parentheses on plus or minus infinities. You never put a bracket on an infinity, period. You simply never put a bracket on an infinity. It's not an endpoint that you can include because it's, I guess you can get into a philosophical kind of thing there. But it's not really an endpoint. It just means, oh, it goes that way forever. Another thing on, let me make some more space here. We do, of course, have situations where we've got two endpoints. Let's say we were talking about all the numbers from -2 to 7. All the numbers in between -2 and 7. And for the fun of it, let's say we want to not include the -2, but we will include the 7. So 7 is in this interval, -2 is not. We have to go with both the parentheses and the brackets to choose from. We can't just always do brackets because there's no way to determine what the very first point just above -2 is. Is the first point larger than -2, -1? No. What about all these points in between? How about -1.9? No, because we could make it 0.99. And then we could make it 0.999999. And no matter how many nines I put, you could out-9 me. So there's no way to determine what the very first point larger than -2 is. We have to have this option. To write this as an inequality, we would put, wait a minute here. When x is the numbers between -2 and 7, you literally write the x between the -2 and the 7. In this case, because I put a parenthesis on this end, this is just going to be a plain less than. In this case, because I had a bracket here, I have to put the line here for this to match up. This is the same exact thing as saying that x is less than or equal to 7. And if -2 is less than x, that's the same thing as x is bigger than -2. But we have to combine these into one expression here to say that it has to have both of these conditions met at the same time. It's not an either-or situation, because if you said everything smaller than 7 and everything bigger than -2, that would actually include every number at all. Any number is either going to be smaller than 7 or bigger than 2, and some of them are both. Here, we're only interested in the both. And to write it as proper set notation, we have to put this stuff around it. To write this in interval notation, it's just like this without the line there. We go parentheses on the -2 and a bracket on the 7.